Hey, boss? You there? Hey, D-Man, I know you're watching.
What do you want, Chris?
Well, I've been thinking.
That's a first.
I've been thinking. Look, I have a lot of fans who have requested that I do religion.
Yeah, I've seen. I'm not blind, boy.
I know. The last time I mentioned a certain G word, you almost set me on fire.
Yeah, that was fun.
All that I ask is that you don't do that this time.
Fine. If that'll get you to the point faster. You talk way too much, you know that?
No, I don't know that. Ladies and gentlemen, you asked for it. Never say I don't give you what you want. Today, we're defending religion. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Taylor, and I am the advocate of the devil. Since time immemorial, mankind has clung to the idea that there is something more out there that governs how things play out in the greater universe. Some claim it's karma, some say it's God. Some other religions believe that there's a whole collection of supernatural Justice League beings, each with a menagerie of different powers and motives. In recent decades, science has done much to disprove the God theory. It wasn't Adam and Eve, it was atoms, and protons, and space explosions. The Big Bang was what made the universe, and planet Earth won the biological lottery with life, to our knowledge, only being made right here. It could potentially be said that religion is outdated, passé, no longer necessary for humans to continue our existence. But here's the thing. Religion is a much bigger part of our society and psyche than I think a lot of us are willing to admit. So, if I'm going to shed some light on religion in the present, it stands to reason that I'm going to need to turn back time a little bit to the past. Let's start with Egypt.
Oh, I hate mummies.
On top of being a land of coarse, rough, irritating, gets-everywhere sand, it's a land of the greatest wonders of the world. The pyramids, the Sphinx, the hieroglyphs. So long as there isn't some kind of war going on, it's a sight that I truly wish to see in person someday. But then you start diving deeper into the mythology of the place. Many different gods doing many different things. The Egyptians believed that things like the sun and the wind were divine forces all on their own. It's been said that there are thousands upon thousands of Egyptian gods.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000? There's no way that can be right!
So many that there still aren't names for all of them. Time moves forward, however, and the time of the Egyptians passes on to the time of the Greek, into what I have affectionately dubbed the Avengers of mythology. We have Ares, the god of war, Hades, the god of hell, Poseidon, the Aquaman of the gods, and Zeus, the unequivocal leader of the entire bunch. When this collection was in vogue, the people of Greece would create works of art depicting their gods in what we now view as mythological acts, but back then were seen as absolute truth.
You can't handle the truth!
There were temples built in their honor, paintings and writings all describing their goings-on in the larger world. In present day, one of the largest religions is Christianity, which forgoes the idea of many gods in favor of just one. God. Well, unless you count Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity, as three separate beings instead of multiple forms of just the one.
It's a monotheistic religion, but there's three of them.
Just like water can be ice, steam, and water.
In Christianity, God creates the earth. All of it. Then he creates man, and from his rib, woman, in his image. Then he sends a massive rainstorm, but promises that he feels super bad about it, so he shows a rainbow to say that he'll never do it again. Ever. Okay, I'm paraphrasing greatly here, but there is one thing that I want to point out about all religions, even the ones I'm not talking about. It provides people with comfort and community. There is one thing that ties us all as humans together. To a certain extent, we all fear what we don't know. Going for a job interview, but you need to wait for a week to find out if you actually got the job. Ask a pretty girl to dance and for a split second, what if she says no? And those are just tiny little things. Religion, whether you view it to be made up or you are a true believer, gives an answer to the big questions. Why is there a sun that burns you? Why is there a wind that blows you away? But above all else, why are we here? And what happens when we aren't here anymore? Every religion, no matter how many gods there are, has a creation story and a what happens next story as well. We as people have a deep need to know things, even if it doesn't seem that way on the surface, even if it's potentially wrong. Even if we don't see it ourselves, having a book or a person to talk to us to tell us the answer to these things makes the unknown a little less scary, because until proven otherwise, you now know. Or at least you think you do. On top of that, being in a religion gives you a ready-made community of like-minded people. It doesn't matter which religion you are, even if that religion is more of a core function of the belief of the self, rather than an outward, all-powerful, all-knowing being, there are bound to be others like you, that think the way you do, that had the same questions and believe the same answers. And finally, if you are an atheist or an agnostic, or even if you are religious but you don't take it overly seriously, there is one thing that could bring every single person on this planet together. Comedy!
They knew people were basically stupid and would believe anything they were told, so they announced that God had given them some commandments. Up on a mountain, when no one was around.
Religion has had a target on its back, I'm sure, since its inception, with comedians constantly taking jabs at it. Whether it's from a first-hand experience in religion itself, or even just analyzing what, to a non-believer, seems absolutely ridiculous. And there's precedent for this even without comedians doing all the heavy lifting for us. The beginning of this episode, I brought up Egyptian and Greek mythology as my first point because nowadays, that's what it's turned into. Silly stories by people who didn't seem to know any better. However, back in the times when those religions were believed in by the vast majority of people, it was exactly that. Religion. What some would think is common knowledge.
How much you think a cross like that costs?
You mean in dollars or common sense?
Oh, zing.
Nowadays, we have Christianity as the norm. And we see things like Scientology or even Mormonism, which from what I hear is a great stage play that needs to be seen. And I still haven't seen it. And it's funny and nonsensical unless you believe. Comedians, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they do now what we do with the past. Look at it with a critical eye, and if it doesn't make sense, we point and we laugh. And quite frankly, if more people would do that instead of taking everything so seriously, maybe we wouldn't have so many problems between different believers as we do right now. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, I do hope I managed to shed some light into the positivity of religion. Whether it be in looking back at the past and seeing how far we've come, or the comfort it brings in having ready-made answers to questions we may have, religion has been around for millennia, and it's not going anywhere. To those of us who don't believe, we can sit back and chuckle at silly stories that may not even be considered close to a fact a few decades from now. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for a new piece of my mind every Wednesday at noon. And let your verdict be heard in the comments below. Do you have a commonly held belief that isn't the majority that you'd like to see me defend? Maybe you watched this and think I'm completely bogus. By all means, let your views clash with my own, so that I may proceed to prove you wrong.
Kaboom! You've been lawyered.
But for now, in the case of religion, the defense rests.
A radical Muslim website put up what they called a warning to Parker and Stone, saying that they would probably end up like Theo van Gogh, a Dutch filmmaker who was butchered by a radical Islamist.
See that right there? No matter what, you have no right to threaten someone else just because they believe in something that you don't. Especially since it's a joke. Something that is already not meant to be taken seriously.